I feel obligated to say this is the labor of love of the city clerk. While we're all laboring over the budget, Stephanie every week is throwing a revised fee resolution at us, trying to get us to approach it. So this is what you get. We never used to bring the fee resolution at the same meeting as the budget. But in recent years, we've tried to do that because, of course, the budget, the fee resolution, like the tax authorization, supports the budget. So we wanted to go ahead and bring that at the same time. Fee resolution is presented every year. The fees that the city charges for services, water, sewer, garbage fees, parking tickets, you name it, they're all in the fee resolution. They are authorized every year by the City Council. This year, the fee resolution is being proposed in a public hearing setting, and the public hearing setting is required because if any new fees are proposed or any existing fees are increased by or more than 5% or greater, then a public hearing is required. And that public hearing, as the public hearing for the budget, you have to publish notice for it 2 times in consecutive weeks prior to the meeting. This was, of course, published Saturday a week ago, and then last Saturday, as was the budget. That notice must contain a synopsis or a summary of those fees that are being increased or new fees. So we will get right to it. The fee resolution, this is just a synopsis. Cost of services and capital improvements, we have public utilities, water and sewer, and then the cost of service for land use and development. Of course, we have no capital involved in that. Building valuation, you see all of those. I won't read them all off. And then, of course, sanitation, carryout, and tipping fees, and some other services, licenses, that sort of thing that are also included, and all the parks and rec programs that you authorized in the budget and art programs are also included as well. Those are all fees affiliated with those programs. Okay, land use and development fees. This is an area that at the workshop the council had some concerns about and wanted to go into a little more in depth, as Bill Belknap indicated at that time, and he is here ready to answer your questions again. What we look at, Bill, I thought, did a nice job at Administrative Committee, I believe it was, talking about the purpose is to try and recover the actual costs of these land use permits. For instance, we have some special circumstances in the city of Moscow. State code requires notice to be given to those residents who are located within 300 feet of the development. In Moscow, several years ago, the council authorized or mandated that it would now be 600 feet. And, of course, that as that diameter gets larger, it's exponential, so that involves quite a few mailings, that sort of thing, public notices. So those are actual costs, and what we're trying to do is move toward recovery of those costs. In addition, what Bill reported at, and you can certainly ask him questions if you like, indicated that he looked at some of our surrounding jurisdictions to make sure that we were still within the realm of reason, and it turns out that all of our permit fees are less than those in surrounding jurisdictions.
Gary Dan's got something.
Oh, yes.
Like
Quick, Bill, while we're on this page, how many of those fees are common right now? I mean, we don't see, recreational vehicle parks. When was the last time we saw one of those? I mean, you probably never seen one.
The last RV park development application was actually about a year ago.
Oh,
it was
really?
a Renaissance RV park out on Carmichael Road. That was actually an expansion. I think we had a prior approval about 3 years prior to that. But that was the only one we've had. So we have not had a great number of those. And then the mobile home park development fees, we've not had a new mobile home park established, at least in the last decade that I've been here. We conditional special use permits, variances, PUDs, lot divisions, site plans, all of those are very common. Subdivisions, we do those on a regular basis. But the mobile home park is kind of the one that we had not done, at least in the last 10 years. And RV park, again, we've had one in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure and point out that we're not putting this on something that happens all the time. This is something that doesn't happen necessarily, but if it did, it would take an amount of work relative to the fee.
Correct, and what we looked at our direct staff time and the publication costs and the hearing notice publication costs that have increased over the course of the last several years. For example, on a conditional use permit, we're spending about $160 just in our noticing costs. That's the publication, the mailing to the adjacent property owners. By the time you take staff time into account, we're pretty much collecting about a third of the cost of processing those applications. And so the fees increases that were proposed this year is really kind of a first phase of phasing up over the course of 3 years, if the council wishes to do so, to raise those fees closer to the actual cost of processing those applications and more comparable to other jurisdictions that are actually charging the true cost of processing of those types of applications. In the broader scheme of things in the budget, they don't account to a whole lot of money. I think we've budgeted about $6,000 annually for these kind of land use discretionary fees, so it's not a large sum of money overall in the budget as a whole, so it's not going to make a significant impact, but it will help us get closer to recapturing the cost of delivering the service.
Thank you.
You just want to be clear, I'm assuming that all mobile home parks within the city of Moscow are on city water and sewer, and that we don't have any situations like exist at Syringa where there's private water sewer systems. Am I making the wrong assumption there? Or
I believe that with the North Polk Water Project, I believe now that that's the case. It has not been until just in the last 2 years, I believe. With the North Polk Waterline Project, that did extend
sorry,
water
I'm throwing
services.
a one.
And
You weren't even ready to ask
I'm not
counsel.
even as comfortable as Bill is saying those are the only ones.
Okay.
Actually, this is kind of getting off the
So we're off,
beaten
but
path.
I'm trying to connect it back to the fee.
We can certainly have the Public Works Department pass that information on.
Gary, go ahead and continue your presentation.
Future.
Okay, building permit fees, couple of new ones, plumbing appliance installation fee as well as gas mech permit issuance fee. And again, these are new fees that are being proposed. I'd ask Bill if he can explain those if there's a question from the council.
Please explain.
Okay.
What's a plumbing appliance installation?
We actually restructured a few of the, and it's only for a few of the building permit fees. We instituted what we're calling a permit issuance fee. Every time we process a permit, it takes the permit coordinator time to go through the record. We have to pay the cost of the software system that we have to record the application. We have to enter the application, calculate the fee, collects the fee, issue the permit, and then when it's completed, issue the certificate of completion, and then we have a record retention cost for that permit record after it's completed. So we have created what we call a permit issuance fee that's $24 for most all permits that we would process, and that helps us cover the cost of just handling the permit. Any additional fees are associated with the time for the inspection on the project. So the plumbing appliance installation is for example, if you're going to do a water heater replacement or a new boiler installation for a radiant heating system, that is what's considered to be a plumbing appliance.
Mr. Mayor?
Walter?
Bill, if I may, in that vein, so we've added a $24 fee on top of the fees we've been charging for plumbing, electrical, and gas, as well as increasing, and I see one that actually looks like it dropped, the actual fee itself.
It has varied across the board. In some instances, we had a plumbing permit fee that was $32 that has now been reduced to the issuance fee of $24. And then depending upon the nature or the type of permit, some items have actually been decreased in cost because now we are segregating out the kind of permit issuance and handling charge separately, and then the individual task, whether it was a plumbing fixture or a gas outlet, is being charged separately. So we really are just kind of segregating out that permit issuance fee, and in some instances that fee was $32 previously as just kind of the plumbing permit fee, and then you would add an additional element depending upon what the scope of work included. We're really just kind of standardizing that all permits have a permit issuance fee of $24 that covers that cost, and then we're looking at what happens beyond that and charging that separately.
So if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm still trying to understand this, and amazingly, I was just flipping pages here and happened to see that one for the first time as somebody started asking about it. So the 24 is a new on top of.
No, it's not. It is
Okay,
a,
let's look, if you would, at plumbing permit fees. Item B, is there a page number? Yeah, page 6 of 29, top of the page.
yep.
And I'm just trying to understand the global implications of this. The plumbing residential permit is $17 plus $9 per plumbing fixture.
Correct. And previously, it was $32 plus $8.50 per fixture.
Okay, but they also are going to pay $24.
That's correct.
Okay, so it is an on top of that we haven't had before.
It was incorporated in the 32 before. So, I mean, some portion of that was represented in the $32 fee that was previously charged. We have just segregated out what we believe to be the cost of the paper processing, the records retention, the software for each permit, and that amount has been charged at 24. What happens beyond that, the 17 plus 9 per fixture then covers the inspection component, the time for the inspector to go out to inspect the project, both at rough-in, at final, at completion. And so looking at a typical home, the 17 plus $9 per plumbing fixture equates to typically the amount of time that we'd spend on the inspection. So we're really looking at all of the aspects and all of our costs and how to recover those costs and making sure we're accounting for them. Rather than bundling it all into an individual permit fee, every permit, whether it's a plumbing, mechanical, electrical, or building, will have that permit issuance fee. And then we've reduced many of the other fees where that kind of inherent permit handling cost was embedded within it to segregate that out.
Thank you.
Bill?
Wayne?
Here again for Bill. Doesn't this strike you that you've just made this more complicated and more complicated than what it's been? Why can't we simplify this? And I mean, if you've got to have a plumbing permit. You've paid the fee for plumbing when you're building a house, and now and obviously you're going to put a water heater in it. But now there's another $17 on top of that because you're putting a water heater in. The plumbing's going to be inspected anyway, which means the water heater's going to be inspected. I just have it seems way over the top to me as far as bureaucratic and complicated.
If I may, in the residential permit, the heater's going to be covered as a plumbing fixture, so it's going to be incorporated in that cost. It's going to be counted as one of the plumbing fixtures. It's not going to be a separate charge. The appliance is if somebody's just doing that change out. So it's an existing home, or they're adding a water heater, or they're adding a boiler, then you'll have the $24 permit issuance fee and $17 for the inspection fee.
Okay.
So on a new home, that 17 is really for change out and replacements or new additions.
Okay.
If you're doing a new residential, then that's all going to fall under item number B, and the heater's going to be one of the fixtures.
Okay. That clarifies it. Could I have one more question I'd like to ask him?
To follow on
yeah,
that,
go ahead. Then I have one more.
Should the fee resolution not say that? This says, I'm with Wayne, it says a plumbing appliance installation, water heaters and boilers. It doesn't say replacement.
And we can certainly add a note to that effect.
If that is the case,
Okay, Wayne,
Let's go back up. We're going to back up a little bit. Page 2, item K. Accessory structure permit. A one-story detached residential accessory building used as tool and storage sheds with a floor area less than 200 square feet and where no building permit is required. It's $28.50. That means if somebody in their backyard wants to build a 4x8 tool shed to put their lawnmower in, they got to come to the city and pay $28.50 to do that.
That's correct.
And what is the purpose in that?
The purpose is to do a zoning review of the placement of the structure to make sure it's outside the setbacks and a compliance inspection afterwards to ensure that it was placed in the proper location in accordance with the code requirements.
Good answer.
Gary, would you like to continue on?
Yes, sir.
I don't know where you're at in your presentation. but-
He doesn't know either now.
yes, he does.
We're rolling along. Okay, these are sewer service rates. We've been through these several times. These are pursuant to the water and sewer rate study, so this just implements a continuation of those fees. You will see that there are some of these that were implemented in a 2-year cycle because when we did the use study and the analysis, the load study, that it was determined that that much of a hike in 1 year would be too much. So we've kind of leavened that out. Same thing we did with water rates a few years back, so on and so forth. Same thing with water permit, same thing. The increases are pursuant to the adopted rate study, so those are included in there as well. We are seeing the street cut damage recovery fee, which is something that has been in our fee resolution for years. We've not charged it, so it is being charged at this point. We did a pretty in-depth review of street cuts. If you have a brand-new street, some cities don't allow you to cut it at all. And we would prefer nobody cut it, because once you cut asphalt, it reduces the life of that street exponentially. So there's usually a period of time when you can't cut it at all, and then it costs a lot from there on out. Tyler Palmer and Kevin Lilly came up with this schedule. So if someone comes in, you want to encourage folks to get their underground utilities in before you pave the new street. Isn't always the case. There are situations where somebody's sewer system or sewer hookup tap will fail on their side of the tap. So water meter fails on the side, customer side, so on and so forth, or a public utility wants to hook in. They can do it, but it's going to cost them, because the street department, of course, has to come back in, and the rest of the city is being charged with what it costs to replace that street. So this is just another fee that is intended to place the cost back on the folks who caused the damage.
Dan's got a...
So, but what if the folks that do cause the damage go in and do the repair?
It still reduces the cost of or life of the street.
So this cost...
They still need to do the repairs.
They do the repairs on top of this
Yes.
damage fee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Walter?
On the same topic, did you say we've had a fee for this all along, but have not been charging it?
It was put in, how many years ago, Don?
When I started in 2002.
Don had to take credit for it. He slipped it in without council authorization. No, it just...
Don knew about it all along, but wasn't collecting it. Is that what
Well,
you just
it
said?
was actually, the fees were, it was discussed, the fees were, some were getting covered, as Dan just indicated. We had increased costs of repair, so it was felt that that was sufficient. But as we're seeing now, and I think, frankly, the street that kind of swung it was A Street, when we had that brand-new street out there and people start cutting it for utilities, and you can see a street that's in really good shape starts going downhill real quick once it's cut. So this is the answer from Public Works. You also see a right-of-way excavation security deposit, 5% increase on that, to make sure that folks who dig in the right-of-way pay for or are responsible for what they do. Parks and Rec. Programming was, we all went through the budget process, and those programs are determined by the programs that are authorized. Arts Department, you have an arts classification that is increasing as well, and that is a variable amount depending on the class. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
I think there was a bunch already asked. Other questions for Gary before I open a public hearing?
Sidewalk damage fee. Do we just say, go fix the sidewalk that you broke with your tractor when you went across it, or do we?
That's,
we have to run
the ordinance requires that it's repaired.
Okay.
So we don't need a fee for that.
So enforcement is just a matter of enforcement?
Yeah, it's a matter of finding it and having them do it.
Assessing the right person.
Precisely.
Thanks.